Today we're going to talk about Chardonnay, and Chardonnay is certainly one of the most famous white grapes on the planet, if not the most famous, in part because of its origins. It comes from the Burgundy region of France, which is quite famous for both Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and the most legendary Chardonnays came from this specific area. Now, Chardonnay also is grown a little further north in the Champagne region, which we'll talk about how those comparisons play in these wines that I have before us today. So to start with, I actually want to talk about our Blanc de Blanc. Now I want you to notice that our Blanc de Blanc, the name is French. It stands for white from white. And this is a term that you see used in the Champagne region when they make champagne from 100% white grapes, because they can blend red and white both. Now our Blanc de Blanc is a blend of Chardonnay and French Colombard, which interestingly enough is the grape that's used to make cognac. But in our case, we're making this glorious sparkling wine. Super fresh. Really crisp. You get that great green apple flavor that comes from the Chardonnay, but really nice and mouth-filling and very, very refreshing. Delicious example of Chardonnay made in a sparkling style. Not made in the same style as Champagne, but you can certainly see the nod to Champagne with the name Blanc de Blanc. The next Chardonnay that we have is our Unoaked Chardonnay, and this one is almost made in the style of Chablis. Now Chablis is in the northern part of Burgundy, and it's much cooler up there, and they typically make their Chardonnays in the style without oak. They're really austere, really beautiful, clear, elegant wines, and our Unoaked Chardonnay is along those lines as well. You know, I always make the joke that some men look better with beards and some look better without them. Chardonnay is the same way. Some Chardonnays look better with oak and some look better without it. Our Unoaked Chardonnay, great without oak. And the reason for that is that really beautiful, fresh, fruity characteristic. This is a wine that's made in a very fast style. It goes through its fermentation, and pretty quickly it goes right into bottle. And so it really captures the fresh essence of Chardonnay without any extended aging, without any oak contact. And you really get that fresh, fruity character that shows you what that grape is all about before you add in bubbles or oak or other things. The next wine that we'll taste is our regular Chardonnay. Now, this Chardonnay sees a little bit of oak aging, and it's sort of interesting. The more rich the Chardonnay is, the better it can stand up to oak. They have to be very, very ripe and have very intense flavors, because oak gives a lot of strong flavors. In the case of this wine, what we're actually doing is aging this in older oak barrels. So barrels that are used for the very first time for our Luxe Chardonnay are then used the second time for our regular Chardonnay. Now, this is a wine that has a little bit of that toastiness that you get from the oak. I can smell it right off the top. It's got this really wonderful nutty, sort of biscuity characteristic to it. It smells a little bit like hazelnuts. And then there's also a little bit of a buttery flavor to it. There it is. So where that butter comes from, it's very interesting. Chardonnay is one of these grapes that commonly goes through what's called malolactic fermentation. And this is a process where the malolic acid in the wine is converted into softer lactic acid. It's the same kind of acid that you find in fermented dairy products like yogurt. And this is a much creamier, softer, rounder texture, which works really perfect for Chardonnay. It gives it a real lusciousness that, especially when it's aged in oak barrels, really adds to that creamy, rich, buttery flavor. And now on to our Luxe Chardonnay, and this is made in a style that isn't quite as much like Burgundy, in that this is a wine that has a lot of oak and a lot of ripeness to it. This is coming from really premium vineyard sources down in the central coast of California. You get this really wonderful tropical characteristic to the wine. It reminds me of like pineapple upside down cake. A wonderful richness, juicy fruit, and a good amount of oak. A lot of these really wonderful caramely sweet flavors. You get a lot of spice as well and some smoke. This is a kind of wine that works really well with richer dishes. So going through these wines here, there's really a range of styles of food that would go with them, even though we're talking about Chardonnay all the way through. With this one, it's so bright and crisp. This is coming from a cooler climate as well, so you get some really nice acidity on the wine. This works really great with things like oysters. It's very fresh. You can do it with fresh salads. A great aperitif as well, meaning you have it before dinner because the acidity makes your mouth water, it makes you hungry. The next wine, our Unoaked Chardonnay, this one's a little bit lighter as well. So things like, like like a chilled chicken salad will be gorgeous with this. Foods that might have some fresh fruit in them would still stand up really well with this, especially I think about that chilled chicken salad and then shave some apples on it. It would be a really great combination. This next one, our regular Chardonnay, as you get that more of those creamy flavors going on, I might think about something that involves cream or cheese. So something like a fettuccine would be really gorgeous with this. It's got that rich kind of buttery, creamy flavors, and this would work really well with something like a creamier pasta. And then our final wine, the Luxe Chardonnay, big bold flavors on that wine should really go with a big bold flavored dish. This is where I'd bring in barbecue. I love oaked white wines going with grilled foods, especially things like grilled prawns, grilled chicken, things with lots of intense smoky flavors and all of that richness. So that concludes our Chardonnay lesson today. I hope you enjoyed your studies. Cheers.